On.
How's that right there? Better?
Oh, look at that. We got pink glasses. What color are your glasses, Rafa?
These are some vintage glasses that I'm rocking now. They're like kind of like caramel.
Oh,
Caramel.
caramel.
Hmm?
Man.
Yes.
So you're now the caramel Cuban too.
The Caramel King.
Terrible Cuban.
Kentucky fried.
Kentucky Fried Caramel Cuban.
Sounds like a Starbucks dish.
What the heck we're talking about. Hey, welcome everybody. We'll get started in a minute. We're just having a little bit of fun. We got Irene. Apparently, let me see the ring, Irene. Let's see it.
Irene.
Go.
I'm now calling her Irene.
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 Yeah,
That's
Irene.
very fun. That's awesome. Very good.
Pretty
All right, let's
amazing.
see.
I still have to go to SS Social Security to change my name. So right now it's somewhere else, but eventually it'll
Oh,
be
see. So you're not even, it's not real yet?
not yet. No.
I love it. So, all
The
right.
government's taking long. Shocker.
I know, right? I submitted the online application, but I have to go in person now, apparently.
Wow.
See that? Well, we will get started in just a moment with everybody here. I'm still waiting on Greg Clark. So I want to put this in the chat. So wait, hold on a second. I got to do it so everybody can do it, right? Do I have to change this so everybody can do it? Okay, everybody can communicate. All right, good deal. So this is these are the handouts and stuff. That way, at least I can get to it. And I'm gonna share this out real quick because I want everybody to pop in here. I know Carl Slicer does not only have one word. I know that for sure. So we'll get started in just a minute, but that's it. What's your one word for doing business with the federal government? One word. So what's your word, Rafa?
Oy vey.
Is that too?
That's a
Oy
Cuban,
vey.
that's a Cuban phrase.
How do you spell it? What they say in Ted Lasso, he goes, oi, oi,
Oi.
oi.
It's actually Yiddish, but yeah.
Yeah,
How do you
it is
spell it?
definitely not Cuban. We know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, you know, we have kosher Cubans also.
Oh,
Yeah,
kosher Cuban caramel kernel.
right.
It never ends. Hey, Greg Clark, he's in. Hold on a second. I gotta get your camera working there, big man. There you go. There he is. I'm glad you're here. All right, we'll get started in a minute. So what's your one word? Who's got it in the chat? Let's see what you say. Let's see. Long. Seven. Gail Paul says 7 circles of hell. Oh my gosh. Jay Talbot, not obvious. Gail is oy vey. Yes, awesome.
Can I put a phrase in?
We can do an illustration. Can we do an illustration, Dave?
You can absolutely do an illustration. What illustration you want?
Let's see.
Hey, Matt Smith, good morning to you. Cynthia says opportunity. I agree with that. That is true. That is absolutely true. But so what's your one word for doing business with the government? Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a minute. Win-win. 2 words. That's one word used twice. Jose, nicely done. Irene says lucrative. Very nice. Very nice.
Can be after you get past the long and complicated part.
Yeah, there's what the government does. It is simple. Just watch SAM.gov.
Yeah.
That's what everybody
Right.
says.
Okay, I put mine
Complex.
in, Dave. I put my illustration. It's not really an illustration. It's more of a symbol.
What the heck is that, Sally?
Hell.
Oh.
It's a Japanese symbol for hell. No, and I was
Red
seriously, I
ballot.
literally just went through renewing my SAM, and the whole time I went through it, I kept saying your mantra, Dave, Dave, Dave. Like, get me
Don't
through
blame me
this.
for it. Don't
No,
blame
I
me.
was saying, it was more of a prayer. Dave, Dave.
All right, so we got who? What else we got? We got Ashley saying complex, and we have Fred saying relationship. Ooh, Fred got the primer for this one.
Yeah,
That's
Greg
for
here.
sure. How do you say what is that, Dr. Raphael? You know I don't.
Difficult.
Difficult.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Difícil.
Yep. Challenging.
Awesome.
It can mean those
Difficult
3
challenge.
things.
What do you say, Greg Clark? What's your one word? What's your one word for doing business with the federal government?
I agree with relationships.
Oh, I do too. I would say so. Well, certainly required. You do relationships. I'll say required. since it's only one.
Well, I mean, if you don't have a relationship, then you're just a name on a piece of paper, right?
Mhm.
Your business card
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So,
or a gym membership.
With all the risks inherent in being a name on a piece of paper.
man, dropping wisdom bombs right out of the gate.
He's
Greg
always
Clark.
he's always
The
so
reverend.
eloquent and just chill. I mean, we're like, hey, and this and that. And Greg comes in.
I got a
relationship.
new one for that I picked up over the weekend. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
Nice.
The second best time is now.
Dude, look at you
Yeah.
go to France and all of a sudden, boom, you're just you're a French philosopher now. Didn't even know there
John
was
Travolta
such
over
thing.
here. Phenomenon.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. We'll get cooking. All right. Who we got here? Carl, are the cameras off? Your camera's off, Carl. I can elevate you if you want to be part of it. We can get you in. This is a webinar, so we can't, it's not as easy to get you. So where are we, ladies and gentlemen? We're at $750 billion spent and $950 billion left, give or take. I rounded those numbers because I knew we were about $1 trillion left earlier this month. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They spent 50 billion in the last, 13 days. That's my bet. So that's where we are. Why is this important, Irene?
Because it means there's a lot more money to spend and opportunities to give to
Why
small
do they
business.
have to do it? I think they just should put it off till next year. They don't have to spend
Well, you have to spend the federal budget by the
it.
end. of the-
Why? Do you have to spend your household budget by 9:30?
No,
What?
I don't. But if they don't spend it all, they're not going to get any more for next year.
What? You mean to tell me that the rules are that they have to spend all their money by 9:30?
Absolutely.
That is true. You know why we know that? And we watch this all the time. And this is new, guys. I want everybody to see this.
Mm.
This is new. I've never seen this, and I want to know if anybody else has seen this up to this point in the fiscal year. Take a look at the numbers. This number here, 75% only have one response.
Mm.
Now, there's a couple of outliers there, but look at those numbers. This is unprecedented. I wrote a blog. I hate that word blog, but I did put it on samradar/blog. So this is the key piece. 75, if this is what's happening in the market, in the federal marketplace, we better be doing what Greg said. What's that word? One word?
Relationships.
Relationships, baby. How do you think it's happening? You can look at the rest of it. If you look at including the short list, right? Including the short list, 85%. 85% is happening to five or fewer companies.
Hmm.
That means you and 4 others or 5 others that ain't you. That's what that means. Crazy, right? So 98%. How can we possibly compete if we never see it? So let me ask a question. So here we go. We have 52 people here now, and I know some of you can't answer the question, but let me ask you this. Did you know about the 98% not hitting SAM.gov? Yes, you did. No, you knew something was missing, maybe, or you don't believe it. There's your 3 options for today.
Mm. No way.
No way, Jose. All right. And did you know that 75% of the awards had 0 competition? And some people don't believe it. I like it. That's good. That's good. If you're one of the folks that don't believe, that's why we're here. And I want to introduce you some characters on here today. We have the Colonel with Carmel. He's Kentucky. You're Kentucky Colonel now, right?
That's right. That's right.
You're Kentucky Colonel with Carmel glasses. So Dr. Rafael Marrero helps folks with capability statements, briefings, videos. You see it right there on the screen. He's a good friend of mine. And if you have a contracting officer that has this face, when you say capability statement, if you don't, what? Why is it so important to have a capability statement? A good one.
It's your corporate resume. It's your first chance to start the dialogue, right? And if you don't communicate the essential elements of information, you're going to lose your audience. They're going to know you don't belong there. They're going to go to the next vendor. Simple as that.
It is that simple. And if your first impression is not good, What are the chances you're going to get a second one? And you help with that, like I said, capabilities. You have the capabilities video too. I want to talk
Yep.
about that at some point. We want to feature that. In one of
Yep.
the- Cool.
We do
Speaking of which,
capabilities videos, right, which are 1.5 to 2 minutes. It's typically, well, under 2 minutes, typically 150 words or less. And it's a combination of this, it's an enhanced version of your capabilities briefing on video, in a video format, so that you can tell your audience exactly what you're all about, your past performance, relevant information, and capture their attention, right? Because video captures sight, sound, right? It's a different medium altogether. And it's proven from a neurological perspective that people pay more attention to video than paper.
they better be, because they're here looking at you right now.
That's correct. You are correct, Almighty One, right?
So back with us, we have Greg Clark. He was in France.
Mhm.
So that's why.
Bonjour.
Pippi.
And then
So that's-
Kentucky.
And Greg,
Pretty
just a
much
real
the same
quick,
thing.
what's that?
I said, and then Kentucky until yesterday, pretty much
And
the
then
same thing as France.
And because and I couldn't, you know what I couldn't find, I was looking for it last minute. I was looking for a collar to put on. It's the Monsieur. Why I say that is because this Monsieur, is that how you say that, Monsieur?
Monsieur.
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 Yeah, I don't know. I can't say. But so because you were in France, but then you were officiating something over the weekend.
I performed my nephew's wedding.
Wow.
Wow,
You know,
there you
The
go.
final line of the service was, by the power vested in me by AmericanMarriageMinistries.org, I now pronounce you husband and wife.
So there you go. So that's how we roll here. Greg helps with proposals and proposal writing. You also do GSA schedules last time I checked, right?
Yep, we've helped our clients win more than 400 federal contracts with a combined value in excess of 2 billion, we actually surpassed 2
Billion.
billion 2 years ago. We've been in business since 95, and 2 years ago we passed 2 billion. And we've also helped more than 450 companies get on the GSA schedule.
That's fantastic, man. That's why we're here. That's why you're here, and I appreciate you joining us. And we're doing unsolicited next week, right?
Oh no,
I
I
think
got
so.
home at midnight. I don't know much of anything right now.
All right, cool. We'll talk about it. I want to make sure that we are doing that. All right. So we also have the awesomest Sally White. She's like you see, an Uber connector. She does a lot of work on LinkedIn, and you also help folks with actually kind of sort of representation at events, right?
Right. I actually do represent people at events. I'm going to Navy Gold Coast. I went to Sierra Space, going to the GSX security, a lot of DOE type things. And we actually help with the whole entire campaign so that you can reach out to individuals on LinkedIn and people who are going to the conference prior to the conference, so you can really get that ROI of the conference. So we can either have a booth like Wonderful Dave and his team did, woohoo, go ISI at the conference, or we can walk and stalk. So if you don't want to have a booth, that's okay. We can walk around in a
Walk and
nice-
stalk. I like that, Sal.
We're a friend or not a vendor. So we can kind of walk and find people that perhaps they met through Sam Radar, right? Once you've had your brand. So it's really important that when we walk around with you and we go to conferences and we support you in speaking, that you have your fabulous brand, which you get from Dr. Rafael Marrero and Associates. So we do all that plus LinkedIn. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Look at Sally, like plugging everybody at once. That's awesome.
Hey, it's the team and Greg and the
And
world.
Craig. You left Craig out, but you got him in at the last part.
Greg's never left out. He's always part of the pack.
And we don't have Peter here today. Peter Timbus. There's actually a question for him, Sally. So I know you.
Okay,
work
I'll
with Peter.
respond it. Yeah, he
You
gives
make
his
sure that we get it.
his
but
sweet
Peter-
puppy swallowed Remedil, and so we had to rush him to the.
Oh, what? He's got
His
what?
sweet dog swallowed some Remedil. He'll be okay, but he had to take him to the vet. So he wanted you to know that he would be here right now for his little puppy.
He's blowing us off to save his dog. I don't understand.
I know. I told him that you would have a problem with that, but I would
It's-
sort of try and
you
fill
just-
it.
We got to talk about commitment. Speaking of commitment, Irene bailed on us from last year. I mean, last month.
Last year.
I had a good reason.
Because she was wetified. That's why.
Hey, Greg could have married you, Irene. What?
Yeah,
Right?
and it would have been a great final closing line.
Yeah.
Needed that one at my wedding.
And then Dave could have got both of you for not being there.
That's right. So Irene helps with certifications. Why is it important to have all the certifications you can get, Irene?
Well, the more certifications that you have, the more access to contracts that you have. A lot of contracts, you know, we have like 5%, 3%, 10%, depending on the certification, that are only available to certified companies. So if you are a woman, a minority, or a veteran, come see me.
There you go. That's the idea. That's awesome. We got some questions already. Brian is not able to meet with us today. He's with us on occasion. He's actually out of town, so he is not able to make it. And I know we'll ride him like unmercifully, but he is a former contracting officer like you were, Irene, right? You were too, right?
I wasn't a contracting officer, but I did work for the Department of Justice.
Okay, so she wasn't that.
And actually, a funny note on the
federal
budget
agent.
thing, the Bureau of Prisons bought 500 typewriters in August just to meet the federal budget. Yeah.
So folks, did you hear that? They will spend money on ridiculous things, and you're
Yep.
not nearly as ridiculous. Nobody here is ridiculous as typewriters. That's all I gotta say. All right, so anyway,
It's true, just
real
super quick. I was at a conference and there was a guy next to me who was selling knives, and I went, whoa, what? Help me understand, you know, the knives where you like cut a dime. He said he supplied all the knives for Air Force One and throughout the entire White House. So he was the knife guy.
he's the knife guy,
Yeah.
White House knife guy.
Yeah.
Wow,
I can see that on a business card.
I can see you getting arrested for it too. All right, so real quick, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Lowe. I'm the CEO of ISI Federal, and this is kind of what we do here. And so if it's your first time, we really want to welcome you here. I do have a SAM.gov tutorial later today. If you'd like to know about that, I'll pop that back in here as well. I'll put it back in the chat. There's a bunch of links there, including the links to all the briefings that are happening. We work with data and marketing. There's a question from marketing right in here. Matter of fact, from Matthew Smith saying, what does marketing to the government look like? We'll talk about that a little bit today. Part of that is marketing to people that you cannot reach any other way. That's what we do with GovBrief. We're actually releasing a new version of GovBrief, so watch for that coming out. It is federal marketing support, so you can reach the federal contracting folks as well as the program people. We also do it for industry, as you can see, unsolicited. I do with this character, Greg Clark, who now I have to have a French accent to talk to. But we also do a whole bunch of other things with a bunch of folks. We're looking for teaming partners, experts, and panelists. If you want to reach the government, we'll help you do that. If you want to reach industry, we'll help you do that. And we're looking to showcase folks as we release this next version of GovBrief. In addition to the other things we do, we have SAM Radar, which is the game changer. It is an advanced monitoring platform. It's like nothing else on the marketplace. And we're real excited about it. It's growing, which is awesome. And it's a little bit different in the process because it revolves around building relationships, not chasing opportunities, although it does show you those. And we have Chris Marin from B3. He mentioned this to us about it being the first thing he checks. And then the other guy that you see there is Steve Dirt. He's this guy right there. Not Steve, he's from Dirt. It's Steve Kennedy from Dirt. He's not dirty. But he said this, and you can check that out on samradar.com. And you can test drive it for 7 days. We will be talking about this a little bit later and some of the components of it because of the implications for building relationships, certainly before the end of this year. So what's your one word for doing business with the federal government? We got a few here, and I wanted to get to Matthew Smith's other question, but I will say that, let's see, what do we have here for the chat? Anybody else got a word for us that just came in? So that's a word. That's the word. We had difficult, complex relationships from Fred. That's the best one so far, Fred. Jose said win-win. Irene said lucrative. And Dr. Rafael Morer says government ain't easy. That's all one word. Government ain't easy.
And that's a quote.
That's right. So anybody else got anything they want to throw in? Far unfriendly. Wow, look at you, Robin, pulling out FAR means. What does FAR mean, Greg Clark?
Federal acquisition regulations.
There you go.
It's the rule book for how the federal government buys everything.
And we'll be talking a little bit about. We'll be talking about that next week, right, Greg? Where we talk about unsolicited proposals, because that is actually FAR friendly, but people don't ever get to see it, so it's fun. So
I
we
don't
love the
have anything on my
participants.
calendar, so you gotta have to send me something. I don't have anything on the calendar.
All right, I'll make sure you get something on the calendar.
Yeah, right.
All right. So while it ain't easy, who said it ain't easy? Government ain't easy. Raphael said, but participation here is easy. We like to share links and docs, and I'll pop those in again. Gail says very challenging for the government. This is where we share docs. If you have questions, raise your hand. We'd love to include you if you'd like to be included as well, if you'd like to do that. Quick disclaimer, we're not affiliated or endorsed by GSA, and participation doesn't guarantee an award. I know that's shocking for everybody here. And then for Govies, if we have folks that are with the government here, we appreciate you joining us. Let us know that you are, because we always like to include you. And it's not an endorsement of purchase from anybody. This is what GSA says, so we can connect together. So we will connect you with experts. We'll discuss what works and highlighting the sponsors, including SAM Radar, because none of us can do this alone. That's why we do this together. That's why we have a great team. And so I do want to share the results for this one before I ask this poll. So this is what we got. So 41% said yes, they knew about 98% not hitting, because that's part of our marketing message, in case you didn't know. And they knew that 45% they were missing some, and then 14% don't believe it. I love it. And then let's see. And then only 14% knew that 75% had zero competition. That was new to me. I will tell you that. It's always been creeping up. It was 39% for over the course of time, for a long time, between 36 and 39%. So, but that is something really amazing to me. So I appreciate you guys doing that. And I will ask this question: why in the world are you here? So are you new to federal contracting? Do you have contracts as a sub? Or were you one of the ones that won last year? That was one of the 116,000 and change that won direct federal contracts. Or some nutcase sent you an email, and I know what that means. All right, so we appreciate you guys joining us. And in the chat, I'm going to pop that in here one more time, and then I'm going to get to Mike's questions. And we're gonna pop on that for just a minute, because he's got a question for us. How to create a system to winning electrical contracts after sources sought is posted? Great question, Matt. Anybody want to throw in on that before we get jumping into where we're going? I just want to be able to answer that from Matt.
Dave, I can jump in.
Go ahead.
Hey, the most important thing right now, if you're getting involved at the sources sought stage, you're actually able to make a difference and to influence the process in a positive manner. You can actually assist the contracting officer, remember, or the technical officer, technical representative, by giving them feeds and speeds, giving them the specs for what they should be looking for, and to prove your value as a potential contractor, your subject matter expertise. So this is your opportunity to shine and to team up with them, buddy up with the government, so to speak, to show them that you know your stuff. You can help them secure a roadmap and help them with their acquisition strategy. It's going to pay off, trust me.
Yeah.
And also to steer toward a set aside that's going to limit your competition, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, love that. And then this one's a setup for you, Greg. How to write a proposal, and what does a complete proposal look like? I don't know that we can cover that all right here, Matt, but I do know a guy that does know, this guy named Greg Clark, since when you've been doing this? How long?
That was a smooth question, Dave.
It was. It's great, man. I'm making sure everybody's paying attention.
So, I mean, what a complete proposal looks like is it addresses everything the agency is asking for, and it's formatted the way the evaluators are expecting. Just follow the solicitation. That's the quick answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the longer answer, you can reach out to Greg. Greg, put your stuff in here. And my apologies. I thought it was a link. So thank you, Jay Talbot, for letting me know that I was only posting it to myself and everybody else who already knew everything about this. So here we go. So a lot of folks are new to federal contracting. We have one word, the one word that we were talking about earlier. A lot of that revolves around being difficult and challenging, right? A lot of folks have said that. That's why we're here. And the fact that we can't do it alone, right, Irene? We can't crack this code by ourselves. So I want to throw these out though, because these are kind of fun. So Billy, Stephen from Billy Edward Consulting, you team. So the best webinar ever. If your team and provide attendees way forward with federal contract. Love that because that's what we want to do. Deborah from Green Rush. That's a cool name. Green Rush Organic Farms. Fundraising, funding opportunities are discussed. So Deborah, I want you to connect with Sally. Sally's going to connect you with who is we're going to connect?
Peter.
We're going to
Peter.
connect with
Peter Timbus.
Peter Timbus. So we're going
I'll put his information in the chat.
There you go.
My own for you.
There's the funding that he provides funding on the opportunity, which is exactly what you're asking for. So John from Neptune, get our company shortlisted for 2023. Boy, oh boy, do I love you, John. Love that. And Gail's been active already. I think that's probably you, Gail, right? Your information and contacting buyers is really useful. We will talk about that. Hopefully it will be useful to you. And Gregory from Deep Water Point. Gregory, is Greg here? Gregory, are you here? Raise your hand if you are here, because I want to unmute you for a minute if you are here. Let's see if he is. Gregory, is that you, right? Great. Gregory Allen, is that you with Deep Water? Deep Water Point? Anyway, I know John Johnson for years, so I know you've been around in the industry for a while, so I appreciate you being here. And if you have anything you want to throw out, you just let me know. I'll make sure I'll get you included. Always like, I hadn't talked to John in a while. Oh, there he is. Hold on. Let's get him. See if he pops up to the top. There he is. Hey, Greg. Let's see.
I'm here.
Hey, there he is. So Greg, so who are you with? You're with Deep Water, right? Deep Water Point?
Yeah. Deep Water Point typically requires you to have your own LLC, which I do. So I have consulting clients, both directly through my own LLC, and I have other ones that I get through Deep Water Point.
That's excellent, man. Let's make sure we connect because I hadn't met you yet. So it's awesome to meet you. I know a bunch of folks that have worked over there. Good people, right?
Yeah.
Good people. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. Love the chat offline, and
Sure.
a lot of things that we're doing, especially on GovBrief, that I'd like to run past you.
It's
So
important to know things, but it's even more important to know people. So
ain't that the truth, baby? Look at you dropping the wisdom bombs too. Love it. All right. Appreciate you, man.
Yep.
Mark from Ideal says, how to speak with buyers. That's always a challenge, right? What do you say? And Stu says, if the presenter presents a platform with proven results, guess what? There it is right there. That's why we're here. So let's see. Let's end this poll and share this. So this is what we got, folks. 52% are new. And 14% have some contracts, and 17% direct contracts, and some nut sent you an email. Got that? I had that in there twice. So welcome back, guys. Appreciate you guys joining us for this session. So the next question that I have is, who do you want to reach? Because this is where we're going to get into the conversation specifically. We've got a hot seat questions coming up, and it revolves around this. Do you want to reach buyers, program managers, primes, so you can sub, contractors, so you can sell to them, so you may have products to sell to industry, federal employees, small business specialists, and then you want to see if GovBrief can help you, because GovBrief is what I'm telling you, it is coming on strong. So the hot seat questions for today will be, what do you do to reach buyers? That's one of the questions we had. What do you do to reach primes? And how do you get the RFP and win it? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the hot seat question, I'm going to ask everybody else this in a minute, but Dr. Rafael Marrero, what do you do to reach buyers?
Well,
how do you go about reaching buyers?
well, first and foremost, I like to identify, I like to align my offerings with what they're buying, right? That's very important. I'm just not going to shoot darts throw stuff at the wall and hope that it sticks, because you're actually going to annoy buyers that way, right?
No way, man. They just love getting 50,000 emails.
Oh, no. The worst thing you can do is carpet bomb everybody with your capability statement, right? Because they're going to say, oh, this guy is annoying. Avoid him at all costs, right? He doesn't know his audience. He doesn't understand our needs. He's just going to waste your time. So you want to avoid that, right? First and foremost. Secondly, you want to understand what their needs are, right? Understanding their needs and pain points is essential. So do your homework. Do yourself a favor. Do your homework so that you can actually speak to what they're looking for, right? And then you may want to set up a capabilities briefing. Start with your capability statement, right? Get their requirements and pitch them, close them on the next step, which is a face-to-face or a presentation, a virtual presentation via Zoom or any other platform that you prefer, with your capabilities deck and your material, so that you can tell them what you're all about in about 15 to 20 minutes, right? You want to keep it short. You want to keep
I
it
thought they would
simple.
want to meet, don't they want to meet you for an hour and a half or 2 hours? or
Oh,
something?
no. In fact, one of the things that I like to do, Dave, is I like to prepare the deck, put a big watermark in the background, call it draft,
Nice.
send it to them in advance, just to show them some respect and welcoming any feedback, especially for your sponsor. If you have a small business liaison officer or someone facilitating that initial intro, you should always keep them in the loop. And don't forget, don't ever forget, bring color copies, always bring a couple extra color copies, arrive early and figure out what the AV situation is before you get there, so that you're not scrambling the jets to try to set up your presentation.
I love that. And for that alone, I have updated your photograph.
Right?
Because he is, now we got to explain that now. You are an honorary
Kentucky colonel. That's
from
it.
Kentucky.
That's right.
So
So I'm gonna wear my little tie next time.
there you go. So I appreciate it, man. So Sally, how do you go about, how do you engage how do you even know who the buyers are and how to engage? And what do you do?
Sure. Well, I first really look at the kind of the business strategy. What is my ultimate objective? Is my ultimate objective to become a sub to the prime? Is my ultimate objective to be a actual contractor? So I get a sense of my business strategy, and then I identify who I need to contact based on who's winning those contracts. And again, I've been a SAM radar happy, delighted user since it was first came out, and I love it. Each day in my email, I get a very succinct, clear message to show me exactly who I need to go after. Once I get that, I can either call them or I then go to LinkedIn. I start really developing a strategy, kind of a map on how I can get to those individuals, because in order to decide, are they going to be at a conference? Do I need to connect with an executive? Are they going to be, is there an RFP coming out? That type of thing. I really want to connect. So I develop a strategy. I then look at SAM Radar to see who's buying and who I need to contact as far as the contract managers, program managers, et cetera. I then go to LinkedIn and I do research to figure out who the executives are, because I want to know who the executives are, those individuals, directors, CEOs, chairmen, who I need to connect with in parallel with the people I get who are actually making those decisions. And then I reach out and start connecting.
And I love it. And so that's why it says master connector and networker and all that. That's why I love the way you think, because you look at it. So first things first, you identify somebody swimming in your pool, right? You figured out somebody swimming in your pool, whether it comes from SAM Radar or Forecast or SAM.gov, whatever, right? They can come from multiple places. But so if you look at that, then you go through your process and say, okay, how do I get positioned, right, with that person? So it's
correct. Absolutely correct. I think we talked a couple times ago. I was mentioning that the Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, actually accepted my LinkedIn request. And I said, in all transparency, I don't know him. We don't hang out and have lunch together, talk about Navy strategy. And then, of course, Dr. Raffaello pops up, who does know him. But the point is when someone else connects with me and they see that I'm connected with those high-level individuals, it immediately adds credibility. So they'll connect to me, and then I can proceed the path and adding value to them.
And I guess so what you said, Greg, earlier about relationships, right? So being able to start you got to start someplace, right? Sometimes you start with actually a solicitation, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
That may be the first time that you actually see a buyer, because you wind up, and then your response then becomes your credibility function too. So you can get credibility multiple ways, right? So if you do a good response, then that's good for you, right?
Yeah, and I kind of piggyback on something that Raffaello said for a long time about, your capability statement. You need to look the part when you get yourself in front of somebody who can change your life, basically, with contracting.
Yeah, so don't wear a hoodie and shorts, right?
Don't wear a hoodie and shorts.
You got to look the part. Your capability statement needs to look the part, and your proposal does as well. And I like the way he says that. And I realize that the proposal is the same thing. You need to look the part when you're responding to an RFP. Your proposal needs to be good, not just because it's got to win you a contract, but you're usually going to lose. You're not going to win most of the time unless you're just cherry picking. But what you want to happen if you don't win a contract, you want that evaluation crew to say, this company had a lower price, but this company here really had their act together. This is a great proposal, and I would have no hesitant to award them a contract. You've done your job in that case. And then you get your debriefing, and after that debriefing, you say, can we set up a time to talk? And now you're in, and all the risk has been eliminated from you as a company, right? So and that's how you turn it into the word of the day, a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And relationships happen immediately. They just love you to death, and they'll buy $1 million right away. That's the way. That's what we all want, right? Everybody wants that.
That's what we want. But it takes time. It takes a long time to get to where you're in that point. Yeah. Like I was saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
I love that.
Time is right now.
That is money. Best time is 20 years ago.
Second best time is now.
Second best time is now. I think that is profound, man.
Hey, Dave, can I add something about the relationships? Yeah, so I see that federal employees in the poll is actually at the bottom. Nobody wants to reach out to federal employees, but I want to kind of chime in on why that's actually important. Federal employees are, the people that are in what's going on. They are going to be the first ones to know what issues there are and what to identify and what they need. And we are actually, well, I say we, I'm no longer in the feds, but when I was, we are actually allowed to make recommendations on not only other federal employees, but companies. So what a lot of people don't realize is that high level federal employees, like we're talking about warden of a prison or a director of the FBI, their recommendation actually holds the most weight to who they're going to hire for as a contractor. And for example, the elevators at the courthouses and the jail were breaking down every 2 to 3 days. And the people that were contracting were terrible, but they knew them, so they kept going back to them and going back to them. Now, had I known somebody that a huge company that did elevators that could do them at that level, I could have said, hey, warden such and such, this company can do this better at a better price. So if if you can get in with federal employees and someone that can recommend you, that is a huge way to get in that people typically overlook.
Love it. So multiple access points, right? It's not just one place. It's not doesn't just happen through the small business liaisons or the OSDA booths can, but it doesn't always.
Yeah. And you got to think contracting officers and project managers, they're very far removed from the day-to-day operations. They're not going to know what's going on until a federal employee tells them what's going on.
There you go. And I think you should always wear this outfit when you go calling on everybody. See that? Yeah. All right. So with that, I'm going to ask my next question, which is, do you get paid for researching buyers? And do you make more than $22 an hour? Yes, I'm setting it up. And the reason I'm setting it up is because guess what? If you're not getting paid until you sell something, I'm going to change your life. Just like I like this, change your life, change your capability statement. Sally White said, that's nice. That's nice too. So listen, those of us that are selling to the government, I did it for years. I represented multiple folks, just like Sally represents folks. I was representing people. And I know that other folks here on here, can't remember, Gregory Allen. You help people, you help represent people, right? I know that's what Deepwater Point does. So the idea is they help with the representation part of it. If you're doing this, that's our job. Our job is to build relationships and then advance those relationships into a sale. That's what we do. And we don't get paid until we sell something. So when we're doing the research, it's actually double bad. If we're taking the time to do research, we're not building relationships. That's why we want you to try SAM Radar, because guess what? If you don't have the relationship, you don't even get in. You don't even get the chance to talk. So that's what we're saying. So who are the stakeholders here? We mentioned a couple of folks here. We have buyers, right? You mentioned, I love what you said, Irene. We have contracting officers and specialists. They work on the procurement side. You have program managers and project managers. And then you have the people that work for them. I didn't even put the employees as a stakeholder, as a user, but that is another person, right? There's another person in the food chain. Contracting officer representatives, you mentioned them, Raphael, the core or COTARs, technical
Mhm.
representatives, right? And then you have
Right.
senior management, which you had mentioned, Sally, where you're going to LinkedIn and say, who are these folks and where are they in the food chain? So for those that are new, because we have a bunch of folks that are new, let's talk about how it works. You have the political appointees up top. Then you have your senior bureaucrats or SESs, senior executive service, SESs. And I imagine, Gregory, you're probably in that top. If you're on Deepwater Point, that's probably where you lived at some point. Then you have the program managers, and they care about getting the job done. This is really important for your capabilities briefing, as Raphael said, because it depends on who's in the room as to what your message is. Because the program managers care about getting the work done, and the procurement folks care about getting the contract done. They have two different roles and two different reasons for why they're included. Because the program people, it's illegal, right? Irene, if you were on the program side and you say, hey, I want to buy from this vendor, it was illegal for you to buy from that vendor, right?
Yeah.
It's illegal.
Conflict of
because
interest.
in order for you to fulfill that elevator issue, you knew there's an elevator issue, for God's sakes, right? The need is you got an elevator problem that gets thrown over the fence to the procurement people.
Mhm.
Now, understand this, the procurement people don't care about how great you are at elevator service.
Yep.
They care about how can I buy
Clearly.
from you. Clearly, right?
And
They just
Dave,
keep
that's a
issuing
really
the thing.
important point. That's a really important point. And if I think they care, and I start responding to them and talking to them as if they care about me or anything I'm doing, then I'm wasting their time, my time, and I'm putting at risk a potential relationship. If I think
Yeah.
they care about something they don't care about.
And exactly, because you're turning it Charlie Brown. They don't even hear it.
Right.
Well, we got the best data processing. They're checked out.
Well,
So-
that is until it becomes a serious problem, like the whole elevator thing. The program people will push the procurement officers at one point and say, you need to get us somebody better because this is not it. Like,
That's right. And they'll say, hey, we're still having a problem, right? And then the contracting officer, now their hands could be tied too, because they may have to buy from that person for a period of time, right?
Mhm.
Or think they do until somebody else comes along. And that's where we get involved, right? We, as everybody, get involved. And we build, so you have the program manager. This is in your handouts too, right? If you go grab this is called a winnable opportunity matrix. And the idea is we get the program manager, get something, they toss it over the fence to the contracting officer. That turns into an opportunity, which ultimately turns into an award, right? Somewhere along the line, they're going to execute a contract. And this is what we were talking about earlier with Sam Radar, is that what do I need to pay attention to? Why is Sally paying attention to an award when you're a loser? Because exactly what Greg said, you're not going to win them all. And in fact, you can't possibly win it if you never see it. You just can't. You're not even in the conversation. You're not even in the ones that they reach out to say, hey, I know this person, I know you do this elevator thing, but they can't possibly know that you do the elevator thing if you're not reaching out to them. Irene, what a great example of that. And here, think about this from the elevator side. You watch this and you see an amount that's spent with a competitor that does elevators. You know this because they're in the NAICS code that you're paying attention to. And you get to be able to see the number of offers received and what do we know about that? We know that 75% of those right now, 75% have zero competition. That means they got one response or they don't even list it. And ladies and gentlemen, and anybody else wants to argue about, well, it doesn't say what it is. It could be 150. It could be. And there's some outliers that are, but I'm telling you, every contracting officer I've ever talked to, retired or live right now, has said, if it's not filled out, it means there wasn't anybody else. So that is really, really important to know. So there you go. Let's see. Do we have a poll still running?
So Dave, I just popped something in the chat. You said something really important. You said, unless somebody else comes along, they're going to be continuing to buy who they buy. So that's one of the things that I realized is with what you're doing and SAM Radar and some of the programs you offer, you help me be that somebody else that comes along.
Well, I appreciate it. That's what we want to do. That's
I mean,
exactly what we want to do.
Not you, well,
And we're
maybe
not
you
the-
personally, but
you
I'm just
still
saying
gotta
as
do the
a
work.
platform.
You still got to do the work,
Right.
Sally.
Right,
But if you have instructions and say, this is the person that's playing in your space,
right.
because it already did the research, you didn't have to do, I love it. I appreciate it.
I can't just magically go on LinkedIn and know, because you can't just Google. You can't Google, or you can't do a search on LinkedIn and search on who is the program manager for buying a $17 billion IT. That's not there. I have to get that intel from somewhere, from market intelligence like you provide, in order to help me do my job, and that's figure out how to connect.
Because see, like,
So-
how would the general public, unless I had said something, how would the general public know that the DOJ has an elevator problem? So you
Right.
gotta
In a
know what the
prison.
problem is in order to fix it.
In a prison.
The
Yep.
prison. How they even
We're-
know they
That,
have
we're
their
trying to-
listen, that
elevator?
creates a lot of problems. You got a lot of emergencies and you can't get up and down. It's a problem.
Yeah, you
And-
need to get, yeah.
And to your
Right.
point, we, the public, aren't spending time in prison, hopefully. Hopefully, we're not spending our time.
Hopefully.
Hopefully not. We're trying to avoid that. So speaking of this, so what do you do? What do we do to reach primes? Irene, what do you do to reach primes? How do you do it?
Well, I mean, SAM radar. If you get the
I love this.
information,
That
who
means-
the prime is, then you can reach out to them, like Sally said, by phone or by email and pitch. But in my example, for example, if you knew somebody, if you knew what the problem was, if you knew somebody on the inside, then you can go on, this is what I would do. I would go on SAM.gov, see who's getting that contract, and then reach out and to the agency and say, hey, I can do this cheaper, I can do this better. Or reach out to the prime directly. And that way, so you become a subcontractor, and then the Bureau will see that you can do it better without you having to tell them that, because you'll come in as a subcontractor, you'll know more than them, you'll be better than them, and then you got it, done deal. Now you're the prime.
And I love it. So part of that is you want to displace the prime,
Absolutely.
right? Sometimes you got a team with them because they have a massive
do, absolutely.
IDIQ, right?
But
So-
these people, they'll notice. And last webinar, we had somebody bring up that example that they were the sub, but then they were asked questions because they knew more than the prime.
And there's truth to that too. We had Chris Marin yesterday, right, Sally? Chris Marin was on yesterday, and he's teaming with the former prime, right? Or with the existing prime, because hey, they already know everything that everybody that's in all the players. So that's the other way. So Rafa, how do you go about, because I know one of the things that you do in your instructions and your training is you tell people, hey, if you're brand new to this, you're probably going to want to go and team or be sub to a prime, right? Why do you do that?
Well, because they're the incumbents, right? They've got their foot in the door. They'll probably have the contract. They have an established one-on-one relationship with the end users, right? You want to sell your services, but you also need to understand, or your products, you need to understand that someone got there first, right? So perhaps you can become a small business subcontractor to them. All contracts over $700,000 are required under federal law to have a subcontracting program, a small business program. So,
If they're
perhaps
large,
they're not
if they're
happy.
large,
I'm
if it's a
sorry?
large business that won, right?
Yes, correct. And the only exception is sometimes a construction, right? But in the $700,000 mark. But all large businesses, right, or other than small, right, if they're qualified as
Right.
classified as such, are required to have a small business subcontracting program, and they're evaluated on how well they execute on that program. So perhaps they're not happy with their pool of vendors. Perhaps they're having a difficult time implementing and delivering on time, on budget. This is your opportunity to shine and say, hey, you know what? We've got the insurance, we've got the technical capabilities, we've got the past performance. Take a look at our information. Let's get together, right? That's the way to do it. You open the door, go in through you become an approved subcontractor. So you have to go through the whole contracts management portion, get your paperwork done, and then you can continue developing that relationship with the operational folks, the folks that actually run the programs, right? The program managers, the project managers, project coordinators, et cetera.
So
Love
just adding, if I can just add to that, what Dave said and Irene, and of course, Dr. Moraro. The government requires 23% of the prime contract dollars to be spent with small businesses. And that's a really important number and metric, because like my esteemed colleagues said, they're looking for capability and competence. And another really great way to meet them is if you could go to conferences. The primes are all there. They have their booths set up. They're meeting and matchmaking. You know, they want to meet you. Or if you can't go to conferences, there's many, many things online. And a lot of them are free. And you'll hear these primes, you'll hear these individuals speaking online. You can connect with them, talk on LinkedIn, and get to those individuals to find out if you can be a sub to the prime. But they are definitely looking for you because of those requirements. And quite frankly, they realize that innovation comes from all of you. And they want to meet you and connect with you and work with you.
Couldn't agree more. So I got a question for you guys. And this is a secret. It's something that I've done for years, and it's a very low risk way to generate a referral for yourself. So how many of you would believe that if you ask a buyer to refer you to a prime, the contact at a prime, that they would do it? And here's my challenge to everybody. I don't care how you find your buyer associated with a contract. You can go to FPDS, you can see there's 20,000 of them every day. That's why you need SAM Radar, because you can't look at 20,000 every day. And find, you see one that's award in your space. Reach out to the buyer. This is really important for multiple reasons. I want you to reach out to the buyer. I want you to say, hey, I'm trying to get to the right contact. In this instance, it's Sapient Government Services. Sapient Government Services. I would like to talk to somebody at Sapient Government Services. Who is it that I should be talking to on this project? Low risk for the buyer. You're not asking for the buyer's boss. You're not asking for the program manager inside the National Institutes of Health. You're asking for a contact at the prime. This is a killer way for you to be able to start today and say, hey, can you tell me who that is? And I'm telling you, it doesn't work every time. Does anything work every time, Greg Clark? Never. So that's what. So that's it. So what I want you to do is I want you to find a buyer. And if you do SAM Radar, you do it for 7 days. You have buyers today, and you'll be able to reach out and say to the buyer, say, hey, can you tell me who that is? Not ask for the introduction. Say, hey, can you tell me who it is? Because now you have a referral. This is critically important, because if you actually do business and sign up as a sub to the prime, they may restrict you from talking to the buyer, but you already have a relationship with the buyer. You've already got, they don't know what your relationship is with the buyer. You just met them 30 seconds ago, and they just said, they just gave you the name. This is one of the secrets that we've used for years. And the reason why SAM Radar is so powerful for being able to engage primes. So that, guess what? You get to be able to be on the short list. You're on the short list. So we're absolutely, I love the information going back and forth. I do have a question, and then I'm going to, it's a selfish question, I will say this. Do you get paid for researching primes? And you can answer this very quickly. And what I'm going to say is most of you don't get paid for research. If that's part of your job description, fantastic. I'll save you a bunch of time there. You can test drive this for 7 days for free. And any questions? I think we had a couple questions here. What do you do if there's no predicate devices that is being acquired, a new technology with no FAR type of reference? Stan, let me find you, and I'm gonna elevate you so you can tell us what the heck that means.
Please elevate him, Dave. Elevate him.
Elevated. You've been elevated, and you can now talk, Stan, if you have a microphone. If you don't, we'll have to figure that again.
Dan Sandstone, come on in.
Basically, if there's nothing else like it, like you just got a patent for it, if it's something new, and that typically is very case-by-case basis. The government doesn't like a lot of risk, but if you can convince them as to why it's a really good idea. I actually have a client right now trying to patent a new M4. Again, a lot of risk, because that's a new weapon for the military. But if you can convince them to like why it's a good idea, and it'll save them money, it'll save them time, or just be very efficient, then that's a whole different story. I mean, you do have to have it legally patented, et cetera, go through all the rigorous testing. But you can still absolutely get a contract with a new device that doesn't have, I mean, at some point, all of the devices were new. Everything that the
Right.
government has bought at some point has been new. So
Irene,
that's
right.
not an issue. You're just gonna have to do some extra work and some extra convincing as to why your product is, this is it.
Right.
Go
You
ahead, Sally, what you
go
got?
through STTR, SPPR to figure out how to
SBR.
get solicited proposals for research. And there's a very,
Cool.
very specific. I know, Dave, that's what you're gonna say, sorry.
I love it.
SIBR.
So SIBR is one way, but the other is you have a device, you have something that isn't qualified. There's a whole by a NAICS code or PSC. Imagine that. There's a whole bunch of things that aren't. But you can actually use that to your advantage,
Yes,
providing a justification and approval and get a sole source or direct award, right? Also known as a direct award, where
Mhm.
there isn't any competition. You can do it. You can do it as a pilot. You can do it in a lot of ways, Stan. But that's a very valuable thing. You have to take it to them. And I think what Irene said about risk mitigation is your biggest
Yes.
factor. So how do you mitigate that risk? There's a lot of ways to do it with a pilot, something small. Let's try it out, that kind of thing, to make that work.
That's where the relationships come in, and that's why that's so important. You have to talk to the right people to even get an audience for this new product.
That's
If I could just
Go ahead.
add on to that, I think I've always felt that getting the government to buy something that they've gotten along just fine without all these years is one of the most difficult things to do.
Yeah.
But if you can educate them and explain to them how it's going to make their lives better
Mhm.
and improve their agencies and you know just solve their problems, and that it's this new cutting edge emerging technology that's going that everybody else is going to be using soon. You know, that's the play. You know.
I couldn't agree more. And you put that all in the first email that you send to them with everything, all your documentation all at once, right? That's what you do? No, don't do that. For those of you who don't know that, that's a super sarcastic. All right, so the next question that I have for you and everybody else is how do you get the RFP and win the RFP? So I'm going to talk a little bit real quick about what we do to reach program managers, because that was one of the questions before, is who you're trying to reach. We do reach program managers on GovBrief, and there's limited space, and you have to do it by August 17th. Why? Because they're not going to pay attention to you after August 17th. That's why, right, Irene?
Correct.
Correct.
Everything is done right before that, especially those 2 weeks right before. Oh, it's crunch time.
Yeah, it's crunch time. And they're looking for ways to be able to solve their problems. And the program people, there aren't a list of program people. I can provide you intelligence on buyers associated with vendors all day long, but I can't tell you who the program managers that care about what you do. So that's why we turn it around and face it to the government. With that, that's the end of that commercial. Greg Monsieur, tell us, Monsieur, how do you do this? You mentioned OTAs, right? What is OTA?
I didn't mention that.
Oh, you didn't? That was Gregory Allen. Yeah. But Gregory, unmutify. What do you say? What's an OTA? Tell everybody what that is.
I have no
I'm
idea
trying
what
to-
an OTA is.
What's that?
I'm trying to figure out how to, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Other transaction authority, DOD particularly,
Mhm.
allows you to come up with something new and present it to them and basically get a pilot type start without having to compete.
But that's not fair, Gregory. It's not fair. Nobody else gets to play.
That's
right.
why you got to be innovative.
That's right.
I
love it.
I like the way you said that.
They got to be innovative. All right, I appreciate it. So, Greg Clark, I'm sorry, man. I gave you credit. Gregory Allen didn't mean to remove your credit for the OTAs. Love it. So, Greg does a lot of time. You spend a lot of time with RFPs. So, how do you find it and how do you win? And you actually do it with SAM.gov as well. Somebody will come to you, right? And they'll say, "Hey, I want to win this," or "I want to."
Well, I mean, your responsibility is to make yourself aware of everything, every opportunity for what you do and where you do it. Easier said than done, right? But that's the objective. So I'm looking you're looking, hopefully between the two of us, we're not going to have anything slip through the cracks, but some will. So we're going to make ourselves aware of whatever we can make ourselves aware of. And then you go through the bid, no bid process to determine, confirm that it's a good fit for your experience and capabilities, because that's all you are as a company, your experience and your capabilities. That determines whether you're going to have a good chance or no chance at winning that contract. And whatever you can glean about any current contract or recent contract for those services for that customer, who is it with, how long they've been there, how much they're getting paid, all these things that are going to go into your bid no bid process and allow you to honestly determine your chances for success.
So even if it's a really good for you, you may look at it and say, we can't win. Why would that be?
Well, it comes out every 3 years, and the same company's been winning it since 1982. Would be an indication
Yeah.
that you're not going to win.
Newsflash. Right.
So yeah, and that becomes part of your process. I think to your point, getting to a no bid fast, is that just as important as a yes? To go
If we're
bid?
not going to win it, let's determine that now and not after we submit the proposal.
Yeah.
Let's stop spending time on it as quickly as possible if we know we're not going to win. And those past performance requirements can be an indication, right? If they're very inclusive and they're not restrictive,
Mhm.
maybe they're really looking to get some new blood in there. And but if they're very restrictive, maybe that's an indication that they're very happy with who's doing it now. And maybe that's the only company that meets those past performance requirements.
Love it. I think you're spot on, and we're out of time, so I can't get anybody else's insight at the moment. But I will ask the final poll if you want a piece of the 98%. We may talk about that for a couple minutes if you want some. So what's happening now? Time is almost out for building relationships for this fiscal year, but that means, hey, what about that tree? That tree might not grow overnight, right, Greg Clark?
Yep.
So the takeaways for everybody here. First things first, get moving. Proactive beats reactive every time, doesn't it, Raphael?
Absolutely.
If you're waiting for but I registered on SAM.gov, so they're going to call me on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be waiting for a while.
Right.
And manage your expectations. I think what Greg said also is this is a long-term process. You need to plant that tree. At some point, you're going to plant the tree. You complain about the fact that you didn't plant it 20 years ago, right, Greg? We all do a lot of that. Why? I want it right now. I want my tree. Well, you don't have a tree. You can't have a tree.
Right.
But look like you belong and act like you belong. That means with your presentation material for your capability statement and your marketing materials, your RFP materials, and also when you're in face-to-face with people, looking at act like you belong. I was talking to a program manager with CMS who was talking to a vendor that was sitting on his bed with a bathrobe on Zoom.
Huh?
Yep, exactly. Huh? So that's just one step. That's one step below what Dr. Raphael's wearing today.
Yeah.
Be persistent and persevere. And what do you always say, Greg? Perseverance.
Win a war of attrition.
War of attrition. That's what we're all about.
Your competition is going to fizzle out. Keep going.
Yep. And they want you to.
You gotta follow up more than everybody. You got to do everything more than everybody else.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Relentless pursuit of federal contracting excellence.
Wow. That's a
Sorry,
lot.
I was feeling like I need
Sally.
to say something brilliant, given all my esteemed colleagues, right?
I'm getting that on a t-shirt, Sally.
What was that? I'll have to go
I gotta
back.
put it in there.
You put
Relentless
it in there.
pursuit,
That's the winner.
pursuit in federal contracting excellence.
I love it. So when is our next session? I had it down. I need to adjust this real quick. Second Tuesday of the month would be what?
The 11th of July.
11th of July. That's what I was putting in here last minute. So we will see everybody on the 11th of July. 11. We do this at 11 all the time on Eastern. If you'd like, for the folks that want to compete for the 98%, there's 15 of you. If you want to take a couple minutes, I can show you in detail what SAM Radar is about, and you guys can try it out today. If you don't want to, that's okay. But if you make way more than $12 per day, there's some smart Alex in here. Who makes if it's worth more than $12 a day? So if you make $22, the question is, do you make $22 or more an hour? If you do, then, or if you want to, how about that? Does anybody here want to make more? I know, Raphael, you're about 19, 20 an hour, right? That's what you make.
I'm below minimum wage.
So anyway,
I work for Cuban Coffee.
as a business owner, that's probably more true than not. Sometimes.
Yeah.
And we as business owners, we do sometimes have that issue. But if you'd like to stick around, I'll stick around with you. But I really appreciate it. Irene, great to see you. Welcome back.
Likewise, thank you guys so much.
Sally, awesome as usual. Really appreciate your insight. A lot of great stuff, and Greg, good stuff with you too. Hey, Ralph, if you want to pop in after, I'm doing the SAM.gov opportunity tutorial.
Mhm.
If you're available to pop in for a couple minutes, I'd love to introduce you.
Sure. What time?
I think we like 45 people coming to that.
What time?
It starts at 1, so
I'll be on.
reach out to you.
I'll be on.
I'll reach out to you. and
Send me
make
the
sure you
link.
get a
Okay.
I'll put you in as a panelist.
You got it. All right, guys.
So, all right, awesome seeing everybody.
Take
If you want to
care,
stick
everyone.
around,
Thanks, everyone. Have a
those
great
of
week.
you who have not had enough, I want to show you a couple pieces of SAM Radar that will that'll give you an idea of how this stuff works and why we did what we do. And I know I showed you a couple of these earlier, but I'll show you this again. So if we take a look, there's two different sides, right? You have opportunities that show up on SAM.gov, and we've already clarified that it's less than 2% that show up on SAM.gov. That's the first part. Then you have awards, which there's about 20,000 that happen every day. That's reported on fpds.gov. Both of these are public. Both of these you can see, and both of these you can gather information from. The question is, what's the best way to gather the information, and what is the best for you to be able to then proactively pursue these folks? So let's take a look at this. So here, this just came into my, and I get the dregs of this, by the way, because the paying customers get the best stuff. But this is a contract for $57,610. It was executed just about a week and a half ago. If you take a look here, we see, right, the number of offers received, because this is option year 2, right? They're extending the services. You have Philip with Indian Health Service that's buying from Red Heritage Medical. So we have the buyer and we have the prime right here. So depending on what you want to do, because a lot of folks, that you have to reach out to the prime, and I mentioned it before. When you sign up for SAM Radar, one of the things I want you to do is I want you to reach out to the buyer and ask who they're working with at the prime. That's all I want you to do. That's one of the simple things that you can do right now. You have a phone number, for crying out loud. You have an email address right there that you don't have to do a thing. In fact, it's so easy that if you click this button, it pops up and says, hey, I want to talk to you about the award to Red Heritage Medical. When? A couple weeks ago. Most of the time, it's going to be yesterday. I'm going to see if I can find one from yesterday. This is 6/7. This is 6/12. This is yesterday. Here we go. Here's one from yesterday. Here's one. And the reason, let me tell you why this is hitting, first of all, because I'm monitoring 541611. That's the next code that I'm monitoring for, which is administrative management and general management consulting service. Big bucket, lots of money gets spent in that next code. So what I did is I'm monitoring for that. And I'm going to say, hey, I want to reach out to Alan Smith with VA, and I want to get an introduction, or at least I want to know who the contact is. Now, if you would like to find out for yourself, you can probably find it here by looking at the prime contacts, logging in, to SAM radar and seeing the contact for this particular company. Let me see if I can do this. Come on, you can do it. Are you gonna let me in my own system? No, apparently not. You though. Let me say one more time. Here we go. So if we take a look, there's a lot that you can gather from this as well. So if you take a look, this is the contacts at Adaptive HG. We see Oasis Contract Manager. That means they have they're on GSO Oasis, right? That could be a great lead for you to sub to a prime, because you're not on Oasis most likely. So there's a lot of information that you just got from that. Just from saying, hey, who are the contacts here? And maybe it's Sonia Ford and Sean, and you could say, listen, I know Sonia Ford and I know Sean, but hey, Alan, who are you working with? Because they could give you a different contact, probably the program manager, like I mentioned before, that's working on this project for the VA. There's a lot of reasons to do this. And the dialogue is most important. Finding out how that buyer buys. You can find out a lot of information. Again, you don't have a relationship with the buyer. Your risk level is low. And you're asking for a low level risk to get a referral to the prime. That's one of your key pieces to do right now, before you get in too far into getting closer to fiscal year end. Once you hit Q4 starts July 1st. You need to be doing this right now. And these are the people every day. It'll tell you. It'll give you a few people every day. Here's one. Oh, let's go back to here. See, number of offers received is 2. So there's only 2 companies that responded to that. And in this instance, 0, right? So this is why we built the system. Because if you don't see it, if it's not hitting anywhere, how are you going to know? That's why we built the system, so that we can act. And when I was doing representation, just like you're doing right now, this is really important for you. Because if I had this back then, I was doing the intelligence. I was looking at 2 years and say, who bubbles to the top? Who's working in my space? And then I would go out and I would reach out to the buyers. I'd say, hey, I know you're swimming in my pool. I just don't know exactly how it works. Well, this way, you know exactly what to say when you reach out to the buyer. And by the way, if your preference is, as Irene said before, if your preference is that you want to drive a wedge between the buyer and the prime, you want to drive that wedge in there. You want to reach out to Travis, say, hey, Travis, I do the same thing. In fact, I have this innovative thing. I want to run it by you, but I don't know who in your organization. I know you're probably going to want an unsolicited proposal, or you at least need a justification and approval. We can run it as a pilot. All those things are important for the buyer, not important for the program person. The program person wants to get the job done. Buyer wants to execute the contract. Our job is to help the buyer execute the contract. And we need to know what the buyer likes to do in order for us to be able to get an unfair advantage. The unfair advantage is you're talking directly to the buyer. And anybody that isn't talking directly to the buyer and the program side, they're not going to be able to play. And you'll continue not playing. If you play the same game, you're going to get the same results. A lot of folks that are new don't have any idea that it's not full of everything's fair. It's not fair. And looking at the information from the report, and oh, by the way, I'll show you where that report is. If you'd like to download the report that I was looking at FPDS data and SAM.gov data. FPDS data is the contracts that are awarded versus the contracts that were put out as an opportunity, less than 2%. That's why the system exists. The incumbent is the only one that has a lot of this knowledge, because they're the ones in front of the buyer and the program person every day. They already have the contract. They've already won. Now, if you want a piece of it, you can go to the prime. Or if you want to say, hey, what falls outside of that contract? Is there anything that I can? Sometimes those crumbs are pretty big. I made a really good living off of just picking up crumbs that the big guys didn't want to talk about. And we have SAM radar users that all they did is they started nipping at the prime and saying, I just want these pieces. Next thing you know, they find a weakness with the prime. Just like Irene said with the elevators. The elevators aren't working. They need an elevator provider. Imagine if you're an elevator provider and you started talking to that particular Bureau of Prisons. Then you find out, oh my gosh, these guys service all this area. The next thing you know, you're stealing their business because they just don't want the business. Had that happen with the SAM radar user who wasn't selling medical supplies. All they did was go in, they sell vacuum supplies. Went in, started talking. Found out, hey, there's something wrong. The buyer was just down because she couldn't find stints working for the VA right here. Right? So find out, hey, what's the problem? Well, the prime can't source it. We have sourcing problems. Imagine that. And it was really a problem. If you need a medical stint, you need a medical stint. So he sourced it, sold $1,000 back to them. Probably cost them twice that much to find it. But now he has a relationship with the buyer. Now the buyer's referring him to other buyers. Because this guy delivered. And that buyer was mandated to buy off a contract vehicle, an indefinite delivery contract vehicle. Never despise small beginnings. Those initial conversations critical for you. And yeah, you could have planted the tree 20 years ago. Today is the next best day to do it. That's why we built it, and that's why we have it. And I'll tell you this is the inside of SAM radar. You can get lost. You can spend a whole lot of time in research because you can look at vendors and you can monitor vendors. You can look at all the buyer matches. And oh, by the way, there's hundreds of them. So over the course of a couple months, you'll have hundreds of people to follow up with. And then you can watch vendors like these guys, and you can see every time they get an award. And then you can go out after them and say, hey, I wonder who I should be talking to. And SAM radar will tell you who to talk to every day. So that's why we want to point you there. And it looks like this. And you can try it for 7 days. Try it. And I encourage you to watch this video. Steve, he's awesome. He does that. And the other part that you don't know is once you sign up for SAM radar, you're also part of the Monday roundtables. It's a peer group, and we have a great time. I'm not sure what's happening with that. But if you have any trouble getting in, let me know. Because I can't seem to, I don't know why that's not working. But something must be blocked on my computer. There you go. All right, guys, I appreciate you helping or sticking around with me. And if you need to reach me, there's my phone number. I have another briefing that I got to do in 45 minutes. If you're interested in that, you can sign up. I will pop that back in here, and you can sign up for that. That would be the one that is today at 1 p.m. It's the SAM.gov tutorial. If you're already a SAM radar user, don't get on this. You don't need to be there because SAM radar does everything that this thing does. And oh, by the way, SAM radar does look at SAM.gov at the opportunity level and it shows you everything. So you don't miss anything in the market. So there you go. So thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you guys. I got to jump. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And did I miss any questions here? Let me just see if there's anything. Got the proposals, did that. And then anything else, let me know. I'm just looking to see. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Great to see everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you next month on the 11th of July. See you guys.